Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the WNW, the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, October 17th, 2014. It's all Ebola, all the time. And I'm not going to go through every detail in the minutia of everybody who's gotten sick, but I do want to hit the overarching point. And the overarching point is quarantine. Especially when you see headlines like this. 10,000 cases of Ebola per week predicted by the World Health Organization in a couple of months. 10,000 cases per week are predicted in a few months by the World Health Organization, otherwise known as WHO. And so my question is, if they're predicting this outbreak to get this big in West Africa, why in the world aren't they using the technique of quarantine? It's like the number one thing you do when you're fighting an infectious disease. Do the dimwits at the CDC not understand, how quarantine works? I mean, this is the way other African nations around these West African nations that are infected are treating this. Oh, you can't come in the country. They're stopping people from West Africa, from the infected nations, from coming into their country. And hey, it works. I mean, this ridiculous answer from the CDC saying that, we can't have travel bans because, that's not the way to fight the disease. Excuse me? You mean you want to let other people come in from West Africa into America and not have a ban on them flying? You want to keep issuing them visas and stamp their passports to come to America? I mean, hundreds per week are trying to apply for visas and get their passports stamped to come to America. What? I mean, it's idiotic. Well, they can't stop the flow of people. We're not talking about the flow of people coming in. We're talking about banning people temporarily coming from West Africa until you get a handle on this disease, especially in lieu of the fact that it may grow to 10,000 cases of Ebola a week in the matter of 60 days. I mean, the World Health Organization said, we only have about 60 days before this thing gets completely out of control. And I know the president was on television last night saying, well, the people that I'm dealing with say that's not the way to go. A travel ban of people coming out of West Africa, the people that are handling this. Well, maybe you ought to get some other people to handle this. You mean nobody else? I mean, all kinds of other doctors and medical professionals say, hey, they ought to be, quarantining West Africa. They should not let these people travel to America. I mean, look what happened when one guy did. And they're saying they're screening at airports and taking the temperature with the gun, which is ridiculous. There's a 21-day incubation period. And even the CDC says, well, that screening process wouldn't have stopped the guy from coming from flying into Dallas, who incidentally died and infected a couple of nurses. I mean, and you take a look at the scare around the country. This is just from my local paper. What do you bet that this kind of headline in local papers all across America are popping up? This is Cone Health. Cone Health staff learns about Ebola precautions. I mean, this is terrorizing, especially in the way it's being handled. The president's talking about teams to run out and, and get people who are infected. Why not stop them from coming in the first place? That's a tried and true technique. Even St. Lucia is not allowing people from West Africa to come to the island country of St. Lucia. And I know they're way more sophisticated than we are. But still, we can't use the technique of quarantine, the number one technique to fight infectious diseases. Also, lots of medical personnel, people who knew how to handle infectious diseases, expert medical doctors who have been going over to West Africa have died, caught the disease. They knew supposedly how to not get infected, but they got infected anyway. These nurses had some kind of training, but they still got infected. The public doesn't have a fighting chance to not be infected if these nurses, medical professionals, got infected with Ebola. And I wonder if this is a question that Jim Sinclair asks, that I ask, or sometimes he makes it a statement. Is this too stupid to be stupid? And you wonder why there are government conspiracy theorists that say, hey, they're out to get us. I mean, they are nonsensical in their commitment to, well, we have to, issue visas and not have a travel ban and let these people in. Why take a chance? This is outrageous. This is a deadly disease that could turn into a global pandemic, and you don't want to quarantine West Africa, even though countries bordering the West African countries that are infected are quarantining it. In effect, they're not allowing the citizens of the affected nations to come to their country. And now some doctors who are experts in this field say they worry about it mutating and becoming airborne, and you haven't seen a panic until it turns airborne. It's just too stupid to be stupid, not at the very least stopping travel. People in Congress are saying that. John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, is saying that. Medical doctors who are also congressmen are saying it is outrageous. The stock market is having some wicked gyrations. Have you been watching the stock market this past week? At one point, during the day, it was down 460 points. It ended up closing that day down 173 points, down 460 points. And here's how the mainstream media, USA Today, is characterizing. This is a couple of writers at USA Today. And check out this headline, how they characterize the 460-point drop. Bargain hunters rescue stocks from gut punch. Check that out. Bargain hunter. They were bargain hunters. Bargain hunters. Bargain hunters rescued the stock market. People, the stock professionals were catching a falling knife, as they say, and came in after a 460-point plunge in the stock market. And they were bargain hunting. These writers here for this story, these guys right here, they don't, there's two of them, they don't understand that there is the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, otherwise known as the Plunge Protection Team. You mean they couldn't get on the phone and talk to a few people and say, hey, was the Fed in there buying the S&P futures, the Fed or the Treasury, the SEC, were they helping with a Plunge Protection Team at work here, buoying the market? No, no, bargain hunters. No, we don't have a rigged, not that we have exposed the fact that we have a totally rigged market. All markets are rigged. Well, that's what Paul Craig Roberts, a PhD in economics, former assistant Treasury Secretary in the Reagan administration, father of Reaganomics. That's what he says happened. He says they bought, futures on the S&P 500 to buoy the stock market. And evidently, you can have an unlimited amount of futures buying and prop the market up. This is, this is what they did. Paul Craig Roberts will be the guest, the first guest of the new week coming up, and he updates us on the markets, the stock market, gold, silver. He updates us on Ukraine, the Middle East, the dollar, and you won't want to miss his interview coming up on USA Watchdog. It's the next one in the rack. Is going to be. It's a good one. It's a good update in multiple areas. Also in economic news, China is the new global leader, the new world number one economy in the world. China, according to the International Monetary Fund, China has now eclipsed the United States as the biggest economy in the world. China number one, USA number two. Let's extrapolate that out a little bit. We're the world's reserve currency. How long do you think we're going to remain the world reserve currency, the unchallenged world reserve currency? You know how oil is priced in dollars, and gold and silver are priced in dollars. Everything's priced in dollars around. Just a lot of, 80% or so of trade settled in dollars. A lot of trade around the world. Well, that's diminishing because, a lot of countries have set up these yuan swap agreements, and, Brazil is trading with Russia, and Russia's trading with China. They're all using their own currencies, euros. I mean, they've set up a yuan swap facility in countries all over the world, including our ally, Great Britain. And, you have to wonder how the United States that goes deeper and deeper into debt. I remember just a few years ago where they were talking about $14 trillion deficit. Now we're heading into almost $18 trillion deficit. Do you think we ever intend to pay this back? We don't cut anything. Oh, no, can't cut. Oh, that'd be bad for the economy. Can't cut anything. Won't cut anything. They wouldn't cut $85 billion in a year. Of course, the banker bailouts went unfettered. At one point it was, $400 billion. Not a word from anybody in Congress that the Fed was printing money and giving it to the banks to buy their mistakes, their toxic debt. their legacy assets. But, how long does the U.S. dollar remain, the sole world reserve currency or the unchallenged world reserve currency? And I suspect now that they're number two, why should the number one country be subservient to the number two country? I suspect that the dollar won't be the world reserve currency as long as a lot of people think it will be. And the whole dollar party is going to end badly, especially for people who are unprepared and don't expect the mainstream media to come out and blow a trumpet. What they're going to come out and tell you to buy stocks. Bargain hunters were buying stocks, some ridiculous thing, or the ridiculous story about how we're in recovery. They tell us that over and over when, indeed we are not. A market recovery, but not a Main Street recovery. Two really big hotspots in the world, the Ukraine and the Middle East, and they both involve Russia. Let's start with Ukraine. Supposedly there's a ceasefire going on, although reportedly some 330 Ukrainian soldiers have died since the ceasefire was enacted. I don't know, is it a real ceasefire? Is it an on-again, off-again ceasefire? Is it an imaginary ceasefire? Is the war at a low boiling point? I don't know. It's still going on, and it's not getting better, I'll tell you that. What is going on, you can definitely tell that's going on, is a raging financial war with the West, Europe, the United States on one side, and Russia on the other side. And Vladimir Putin, the leader of Russia, had some pretty terse warnings to be given out to the West and the United States. And he said the sanctions were, in his words, quote, blackmail, and it wasn't going to work. He also called the sanctions a hostile. He said they were a hostile act against Russia. And he also talked about and made everybody aware that, Russia was a nuclear-armed country. And when you have this kind of situation between nuclear-armed countries, it can destabilize things. Kind of a hint that this could get way, way out of control and turn, kind of mushroom cloud crazy nuclear. I worry about that. That nothing has been solved in the Ukraine. It's not getting better. They dropped the sanctions. They stopped the whole thing if it was getting better. It's not getting better at all. Next, the Middle East and this Islamic State bombing campaign that the United States has on. No boots on the ground. Somebody else to do our dirty work. But let me tell you, let me sum it up in one sentence. We're losing. It's going badly. Even the President Obama, admitted it wasn't going very well. Of course, it's not going well. ISIS is still making strides. Sure, they're hitting some trucks and some tanks and stopping them and slowing them down a few, but no, ISIS is gaining ground. ISIS is gaining fighters. And even Turkey criticized the United States. They don't want to be involved in a one-dimensional strategy. Turkey also said, hey, listen, we should tie ISIS, which is diametrically opposed to Assad. Assad diametrically opposed to ISIS, hate each other. And Turkey's saying, well, we ought to tie the destruction of ISIL with the removal of the Assad regime. That's where Russia comes in. Remember, I've been telling you for the last couple of years in the Weekly News wrap-up about how Russia has this naval base in Tartus, and they weren't going to give it up. It's a strategic location. Also, Syria is a strategic partner and ally to Russia. The only reason why Assad is still there is Russia. Some of our coalition partners said, we'll come in to help you bomb the Islamic State in Iraq only, not Syria. Why? What are they worried about? Are they worried about running into Russian fighter jets? Are they worried about running into Russian surface-to-air missiles? Are they worried about pissing off Russia? I mean, Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister, Kerry's counterpart, he was talking about how, this destruction of ISIS, it should not turn into a removal of Assad. That could turn into a wider war in the Middle East. Wider war between, nuclear or disabling things between nuclear armed countries, like mushroom type stuff, mushroom cloud type stuff. Nuclear war, nothing's getting better in the Middle East. ISIS is making great gains. They just about have Baghdad surrounded. The bombing campaign is weak at best, not working, not functioning the way it was sold to us to work. The boots on the ground are non-existent, and I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get way, way worse and turn into a much wider regional war, or this is the warm-up back for World War III. I don't know, but not getting better in that location in the Middle East. Not getting better at all. Finally, Harvey Organ's website of 15 years was taken down by court order. That's what Google, who owns Blogspot, the Blogspot platform, that's what Google told Harvey Organ. It was a court order. Harvey Organ had been on the phone with him and said, "Hey, Harvey, have you got an update to this?" He says, "No, I was taken down by court order. I've asked, multiple times to see the court order. So far, he has not seen the court order. All he knows is that it was taken down, removed, poof, gone, vanished." Of course, Harvey Organ does something very unique on the internet, and what he does is he goes through the fine detail and the analysis of inventory levels of gold and silver in the LBMA and COMEX, and this was his basic premise. I had him on a little more than a month ago, so a month later, poof, his site's gone. After he makes this prediction, the gold and silver manipulation game is going to end this year. He said that on USAWatchdog.com this year, and he gave his reasons why it would end this year, and that basically they didn't have the gold and silver. They were pretending to have the gold and silver, and if you don't have the gold and silver, you can't set the price. That was his basic premise. You know what I think? And he didn't tell me this. This is what I think. I think Harvey Organ was a lot closer to the truth and the timing of the gold and silver manipulation game. And you have to be a complete idiot, buffoon, liar not to say that the gold and silver market and the bond market and the stock market and, basically the interest rate, every market is manipulated, but you'd have to be a moron, buffoon, liar not to admit that the gold and silver market is manipulated. And Harvey Organ says if they don't have the gold and silver, they can't set the price. That'll be done in China, and that means the prices are way too low, obviously, for gold and silver, basically below mining costs. Below mining costs. That's why you've had all these outflows at the, the mint, the U.S. Mint, gold and silver. They're having strong demand at the U.S. Mint for silver and gold coins. And why not? It's all on sale. Thank you for the manipulation. At least China is saying that the prices are manipulated. But I think Harvey Organ was a lot closer to the timing and to the heart of the matter than some people would give him credit for. He says it ends this year. Rob Kirby says, well, if it doesn't end this year, it'll end early next year. But end it will. They're not going to be able to deliver the gold and silver at some point. And when that happens, game, set, match, manipulation party over, we start getting real price discovery. I'm going to try to book Harvey Organ as soon as I can. Right now, he says he doesn't know much, but he'll let me know, and he's going to come on to USA Watchdog and talk about his site, what he thinks, update us, and give us an appearance here on USAWatchdog.com. Thank you so much for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. That's the way I see it. Have a nice weekend, and above all, fear not.